How's everybody doing? It's Cevan. Joined with me today is Reed and Tyler, and today we have a very special guest welcoming in Trent, and this is episode 15 of Likely to Dispute.
Got another team breakdown here today, going over Trent's team, obviously, as Trent is with us here today. And then before that, though, Savan has a fun TikTok related game for us to play here to open the session. So I want to hand it back to host Monkus to get us started.
Yeah, just something quick and fun to get to kick off this episode. We're going to be doing a keep three, cut five wide receiver edition. They're all current wide receivers, so I'm going to give off one name at a time, and you three are going to come up with a consensus to either keep or cut. The objective, obviously, is to be able to keep the three best in a blind style. So I'm going to kick off the first name, and it's going to be Calvin Ridley.
And we don't know who's coming next.
Correct.
Well, you gave us someone really mid right at the start.
That's it.
I am a Calvin Ridley fan, but given we need to get rid of five, I'd probably lean towards a cut for me.
I'm good with the cut.
I'm also good with cut.
Okay, guess we're cutting.
Okay. So we're going
Calvin
to be
Bell.
cutting Calvin Ridley. Number two is going to be Zay Flowers.
Oh boy,
That's a keep.
trash.
That's a keep. I like
Okay,
that.
fine. I guess I'll
Okay.
get overruled here.
Let's go.
So far, we have Calvin Ridley being cut, Zay Flowers being kept. Name number three is Jordan Addison.
So you just have a bunch of players like right in the same tier here.
We'll see.
I feel like that's a cut.
Yeah, go with cut.
Likewise.
Addison getting cut. Name number four is going to be Jamison Williams.
Keep. Just to annoy Savan at least.
Uh, I don't like JMO either, but if we want to keep him, I don't really care. That's
I'm
fine.
indifferent. He's in the same tier as every other player he's named.
Tyler's that a
Uh,
cut or a keep?
I'd probably go cut, honestly.
Okay, so it's Trent's deciding vote.
I'm gonna cut him.
Okay. JMO is cut. Name number five is Jerry Judy.
Keep.
I'm good with the keep.
That's a keep. Yeah.
Okay, Judy is kept. Name number six is Darnell Mooney.
Wait, we have th how many cuts do we have left? Is it two
So,
cuts
so
and
far
one
you
keep?
have, yep, exactly, yep. One
Cut.
keep left, two cuts, and the name up is Darnell Mooney.
That's a
Cut.
cut.
Yeah,
Cut.
easy cut.
Okay. Okay, so you have one of each spot left, and your second to last name is Cortland Sutton.
Oh boy.
For
Probably
John
gonna
Now, do
Mechie
you
in a
want
fourth
to
rounder.
do you want to gamble?
Okay.
This is probably going to
Because
be a keep, and then he's going to put Jamar Chase next.
so I will t it is something like that, but I don't know which end it is.
I mean, I'm fine with the safe option going Sutton.
That doesn't surprise me at all for you.
Yeah. I mean, hey, if you guys decide.
I think host Monkas is trying to go on the cutting edge here, so I think he's a cut, and then we'll take Justin Jefferson next.
Yep. Yeah, I'm gonna go cut. I like
All right.
that. I like
Cut
the end.
Cortland Sutton.
Cut him.
Cutting.
And
Okay,
then
we're
now he
gonna
gives us his bad option that he had
here we
written
go.
down.
So you guys chose to cut Calvin Ridley, Jordan Addison, Jamison Williams, Darnell Mooney, Cortland Sutton. You decided to keep Zay Flowers, Jerry Judy, and Malik Neighbors. Congratulations.
Wow. I think those are the top three in my mind.
Well, I mean, there was better options to end the game with than Malik Neighbors, that's for sure.
Mm.
Irrelevant. Anyways, good job, fellas. All
Pretty
right, let's get on with the episode. So we're obviously breaking down Trent's team. All four of us have Trent looking in the playoff aspirations. A quick overview, KTC rankings. It's about middle to the pack towards the end, middle in quarterbacks, and in receiver or running back and receiver. He's got the best tight end in all of fantasy, so it's going to be number one for that. Picks right in the middle and age right in the middle, and then going back to last year, 7-7, just outside the playoffs, unfortunately. And so we'll just we'll go down the list starting with you, Reed. Just a quick overview on the playoff aspirations tier.
Yeah, I originally had Trent as the only one in my maybe next year tier, but after we did the Sandy and Schrader episodes, and now Trent's team, who I believe we all three of the hosts here have as the consensus bottom three teams in some order. I gained a better appreciation for Trent's team. I don't think his ceiling is as high, but I think his floor is higher than those two. So I ended up moving him up out of that tier. And once again, I just think it speaks to the parity that I think the league has. That I think no team I think is just like clear worst outside looking in uphill battle to make the playoffs. I think everybody in the league has a at least a fighting chance, if not a solid chance. So. Yes, it's still towards the bottom of this tier for me, but I don't think his season's over, so that's good.
Fair enough. Tyler, for you?
Yeah, pretty similar thoughts. I think there is a crop of young players that Trent has that have a lot of upside and should, one or two or three of them realize that upside, then I think this could be a team that really slingshots up the rankings next year. So it's kind of up to, I guess, those younger players to see where this team's at next year.
And finally, Trent, how come you're in playoff aspirations and didn't value yourself as a contender or maybe even higher? Like we all seem to put ourselves a little bit higher.
I just think, yeah, like fighting chance. Yeah, I've got a lot of youth on the team now. Like my draft picks, I thought from this year should be good, but it's just kind of a depends on if they truly get the workload that they're expected to get. Rest of my guys kind of being older too in the wide receiver and running back room as well. Kind of being older, maybe if injuries are lurking. Um, Guys like Mike Evans, Dallas Goddard, if they can stay healthy all year, then maybe I'd like myself to be up in the contender. But it always seems like my luck just doesn't go that way. So we're gonna push for the playoffs. I missed out barely last year, so got to start somewhere.
Yeah, and for me, nothing new to add except I'm just gonna add one thing. Um, I've got Trent and Sumner right next back to back in the rankings, and I view them kind of similarly, where in my head everything's got to go perfect, and then they could be a contender, and so that's why I've got them in playoff aspiration. So moving into MVP for Trent, I believe this is our first unanimous with all the hosts and the guests being on the same page for any category, and it's Brock Bowers. So Trent, just give us an overview on Brock Bowers being the MVP.
Yeah, I mean he's on a team that's not that great, but when you're one of the best pass catchers, honestly, in all of NFL, in my opinion, you're going to get your targets. His mismatch ability that he can have with secondaries and linebackers just makes him even more of a valuable target for quarterbacks. Um, I even think looking at it into this year with Geno there, right? He's projected to be their starting quarterback
Yeah,
correctly. I mean, he's going to be the go-to guy there still. I think like a Genti in the backfield will just help balance it out. Maybe some different type of plays to get Brock even more open with play action might be something that he's going to excel in. So,
yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, consensus, Brock Bowers here. Real quick for me, just getting the quarterback upgrade and the coaching upgrade is the biggest. So, uh, yeah, he was great as a rookie, and he's got an even higher ceiling now with more stabilization around him. So, Reed, what about you for Brock?
I don't have anything new to add. Although I will say I don't necessarily know if it's a good thing that we have a consensus MVP, because that means there's no other real contenders. But I digress. Brock Bowers is really damn good, so it's not a no slump of an MVP here. Nothing new to add. He's a beast.
And Tyler, why is the best dynasty tight end in
Oh
football
boy.
the MVP for Trent's team?
I'm not bringing up any other tight end. Brock Bowers is really young, a lot of fun to watch. Tight end one or two.
You're not going to talk about Dallas Goddard at all? No other tight ends at all you're going to talk about?
No other ones in the MVP category
Okay,
right
there we
now.
go. Sorry, Gunnar Helm.
Fair enough. All right, let's get on with most improved. So we got a newly acquired George Pickens to the Dallas Cowboys. How's George Pickens going to be your most improved player?
I think it kind of builds off what we just talked about with Bowers. He's got a better quarterback, kind of better offensive scheme than he's going to be in this year. Yeah, you got a guy like CeeDee Lamb at the wide receiver one position, so most of the focus on that offense will still be probably Lamb's way, but Pickens has the potential to really excel in this offense. I feel like with Lamb getting all that attention, he could find himself in more one-on-one matchups that he's showcased all last season and the year before. That he can win those one-on-one matchups. So I'm expecting. I'm just hoping his like I think diva mentality doesn't get the best of him at times, and he can stay on the field and not cause any locker room trouble. Essentially, so
Yeah, crash out Pickens is always fun to watch. Um, no, I've argued for George Pickens on this podcast before. I'll do it again. Not going to right now because it doesn't need to be done, but I like the pick for most improved. Let's go to you, Tyler. Jordan Love being the most improved quarterback. I know 2 years ago was his first year starting, showed out the second year or second half of his first year starting, and then last year was kind of a slump, maybe injury riddled. So why are you looking for him to bounce back?
Yeah, I was hoping you would start with me. I'm excited to talk about Jordan Love, but yeah, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head there. He had the Brazil injury, which took him out for 2.5 games. It's kind of, and like you said, I guess kind of injury riddled season. An injury like that may have lingered. Hard to say how that directly affected his fantasy performance. Last year finished as the QB 17. I don't think that's the regular Jordan Love experience. I think he showed enough in that first year in 2023 and enough last year to maybe suggest that his median outcome's a bit higher. Last year Jalen Hurts was the QB 10, Patrick Mahomes was QB 11, and I think that Jordan Love just left such a sour taste in people's mouth that even a jump to QB 10 or 11, which is still lower than his 2023 finish, would really, go a long way. And I think would possibly make him the most improved player on Trent's team. So I think there's still plenty there for Jordan Love. And obviously they added Matthew Golden as well. But I don't think he showed anything too concerning last year that as a quarterback that I would be worried about with him this year. I mean, last year he didn't throw an interception after following the bye week. He didn't throw one during the bye week either, obviously, but I'm sorry, week 11 against Chicago, he threw one, but then after that, he didn't throw an interception. So I like Jordan Love this year. I think he'll be improved. Like I said, I think it'll be around that 10, 11, 12 range where he lands this year.
I'm
Yeah, I'll
a
sign. Sorry, yeah, go.
I was gonna say I'm a Jordan Love fan. I have two things. I don't remember the exact tweet, but there was something that said their Packers pass rate over expected in the couple games following his return from injury was like -4 or 5%, and then on the back half of the year it was like +8 or 9%. So really kind of tailed off how much they threw the ball to try to protect him because I think when that injury happened, everybody kind of thought it was his ACL when his
Yeah.
knee kind of popped, and then it ended up like you said just being like a 2 week injury, I think.
hmm
So there's definitely the possibility that they were kind of shielding him there. And then the second thing is obviously the back half of the year has been kind of his thing. Everyone knows is the big Toyota-thon guy. He should just perform like it's Toyota-thon all year, and then he's really good instead of just the back half of the year. So
That's a very good point. Just play good all the
analysis.
time and you
I
can
know.
never play bad.
It seems like it's pretty easy to do, but I don't know.
I
Funny
would do
enough,
that.
funny enough, looking at his game log, his best game was actually his first game back from the injury in week 4 against Minnesota,
Really.
where he dropped 34 points, was QB2 for the week. But I don't know. Weird, weird season for him last year. I think he'll be just fine this year.
Yeah, touching on Jordan Love real quick, another year in the system, another year of starting experience, and then the addition of Matthew Golden, and some new linemen as well. Everything suggests that he should get back to what he was at the minimum. The only thing I'll say is I think with acquiring Josh Jacobs, they showed what they want to do or would prefer to do. And so as long as Josh Jacobs is performing and they're running the ball like they did last year, there's kind of a world where Jordan Love's ceiling's kind of capped. Then again, they play outside in Green Bay, and so those latter times they are just going to want to run the ball. So only time will tell, but he's showed that he's able to do it, so there's no reason he can't do it again. Reed, Isaiah Pacheco,
Yeah, he seems like a pretty controversial player, and I don't think he should be that controversial. Like, obviously, he broke his fibula last year and missed a lot of time, and then came back and was ineffective. Like, yeah, breaking your fibula will do that. So, but if you look at the 2 games he had prior to his injury, he was getting receiving work, he was getting all the goal line touches, he was getting almost all the touches, period. And then go back to the year prior when he was, you know, the reason he was drafted where he was, kind of in the that 4 or 5 round redraft area. Like, there's no reason he can't go back there. The Chiefs offense should be better again this year now that they're back to hopefully being fully healthy. Hopefully have the left tackle situation figured out. So I don't see any reason he can't bounce back to be like a, mid-range RB2 with even more upside if the Chiefs offense continues to or improves back to where it was. They're scoring more. So he's still a dynamic player. I think people just kind of forgot how serious his injury was and forgot what he was doing those first 2 games before he got hurt in that week 2 game against the Bengals. So I'm a fan. He'd be a great running back to have, kind of as your, in a weaker RB team, your top RB, but he'd be like an ideal RB2 on the squad. So I'm a fan of him bouncing back this year.
any thoughts from you guys on Pacheco?
He's kind of one of those players that I don't really want to touch. Just like
Same.
I'm not saying he'll be bad, but I don't know if I have enough confidence he'll be good. I'm okay with just watching from afar.
He's not a sexy pick. He felt sexy like when he was not 2024 but 2023. He felt like a sexy pick, and now he just seems kind of boring. I'll agree with
Yeah.
that, but I think people are underrating his bounce back potential here, personally.
All right, and for me to finish it off, Roshan Johnson. With those of you that are not as familiar with the Bears as I am, this is my chance to talk about him. So he's played 2 years in the league. He's done essentially nothing. He's more of a power back uh, style, but he is an elite pass blocker, which will get him on the field on third down. As a rookie, he posted 34 receptions, which it's not earth-shattering, but he was a fourth round draft pick. The reason I'm saying he'll be most improved, like I said, he's done nothing. But if you look back when Ben Johnson first had DeAndre Swift in Detroit, that was the year that Jamal Williams had that 20 touchdown year. Um, they have very similar play styles. Swift got used more as a pass catcher and less of running between the tackles. And with essentially no additions in the running back room, I think it's a big boost to Roshan. I think last year he was misused along with everybody else on that team. But I see a real world where they're splitting touches there, as in Roshan and Swift. And I think Roshan will get all the short yardage and goal line. So if you're looking for a 1 year wonder type pick, I think that's where Roshan could come into play this year.
Are you predicting a 20 touchdown season for him?
Nope, but
Because that's what it sounded
considering
like.
he's been an RB4 once and an RB5 last year, even getting into the top 36 is a big upgrade, and that's playable. So
Tyler's a
Uh,
big fan of RB3s. He's made that clear.
I don't
yes.
I don't just listening to that, I don't agree with a lot of it. I don't think you can just like cut and paste what Ben Johnson did in
Welcome to my
Detroit
world, man.
in Detroit here with Roshan Johnson, who he did not bring in. This is previous regime. Roshan Johnson, I'm not really convinced he's that good. And I also think it's early enough. I know we do this and we're doing this in July, but I think there's still a chance the Bears bring in another running back, which, obviously would hurt Roshan. So I don't know. And like him improving would just, yeah, it's not a high bar to clear.
So in other words, it's a cop out, is what he's trying to say, Cevan.
I wouldn't call it a cop out. My thought process is more he's already phased out the lead running back one time, and why would he not do it again? All right,
That's a good point.
let's move on. All right, sleeper. We have JJ McCarthy, for going to be the first year starting for last year's number 10 overall pick. How's he a sleeper?
I just think kind of being a well, I mean, Vikings haven't drafted a quarterback in the first round. God, I'm trying to think when last time they did that. Was it
Christian
Christian?
Ponder.
Was it Christian Ponder?
Ponder.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So I mean, it's not common for the Vikings to go that way, and I mean, the last time we did that, it didn't turn out well for us, being a Vikings fan. So I just think a lot of people are kind of overlooking him in a way, and I know the offense that he was in college at Michigan wasn't really a heavy passing offense and all that, and the guys that he's around him on the Vikings is gonna force him to throw a lot more, I bet. Having an older running back like Aaron Jones, but guys on the outside like Justin Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson to throw to. McConnell wants to go that route, I feel. Um, but I just think that people don't really think he's going to be, I guess, that high, compared to his other classmates like the Daniels, Williams, even I guess you could throw in Bo Nix for how he finished out the year. Those guys, I think out of those four, he's the one that people aren't really gonna be like, oh yeah, I want that guy on my team. So
Yeah, I'm a big McCarthy fan, and I'm sure I'll get into a spiel about him later, but I definitely agree with the JJ McCarthy pick here. Reed, you and me both are in on Cedric Tillman. I'll let you start first.
Yeah, obviously I traded Cedric Tillman to Trent back in the day. I think people are too quick to dismiss what happened in the second half of the year last year just because Jameis was happening, both from a Jerry Jeudy perspective and for Tillman. And given, we've talked about extensively in past episodes, the Browns are going to be terrible. They're going to be running the ball, or sorry, passing the ball a lot because they're going to be trailing. And Tillman had legit stretch down there before he got a concussion that he was a real part of their offense and was making big plays. So, purely a situational thing for him. Not necessarily, I didn't watch enough of him to say I love the player, but the situation is perfect for him to be like true sleeper. Like that people, he's basically free in redraft leagues right now. You can get him in the back end of draft. So like no one's really expecting him to be anything. And I think there's legit potential for him to spike and have to be a startable piece at multiple times throughout the year.
Yeah, I'm also I like Tillman. I like the price that he is right now. I tried multiple, endless amount of times to trade for him last year from Trent, but Trent would not give him to me. Um, yeah, I like the void that's in the Browns offense. The wide receiver two rolls up for grabs, and even if Njoku is going to be the number two option, and they don't really have good quarterback play, they're going to be trailing all the time. So I feel like they're going to have to throw the ball. And Tillman would be my bet between him and Reed Sleeper from a week or two ago and Deontay Johnson.
I'm just
So
in on all the Browns pass catchers.
yes, which is actually
Someone
diabolical.
someone is going to come out of it as the third wide receiver after Judy and Njoku, and I will be there when it happens.
Jamari
Except you,
Thrash.
No, it's not going to be him,
it will not be him.
who may
Promise.
come up later in the episode.
Yes. And Tyler, for you, Jaden Higgins.
Yeah, I like Jaden Higgins. The Texans drafted him at 34 overall in the draft. Jaden Higgins was really productive at Iowa State. For 2 years, he had just short of 1,000 yards in 23, and in 24 he finished just over 1,000 yards. So he showed that he was a real threat 2 years in a row, and obviously the Texans, recognize that, and I think a lot of people did with that high draft capital there. I think the Texans also drafting Jalen Noel. I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily for Higgins, but I think it really indicates that they really wanted to grow that, not grow, but improve that receiver room and find CJ Stroud a 1B to Nico Collins perhaps. So I like Jaden Higgins to be the one to step up this year. It's not a hot take, but I think Jaden Higgins' upside is maybe being slept on just a little bit with, Travis Hunter and some of those other top names being in the draft, of course. But I think Higgins has a real chance to be valued as a, I don't know, top 20 dynasty wide receiver.
Wow, that's pretty steep.
I'm pulling that number just out of thin air. So maybe I'd probably have to reevaluate, but I still somewhere up there. I think Jaden Higgins could have a monster first year, and he's kind of one of those young rookie players that I was talking about that has a big upside, and we'll see if he capitalizes on it or not.
Yeah, I think Jaden Higgins is the opposite of Nico all season. I think they're similar in stature, obviously, and then similar play styles, but I think the Noel pick was more signaling that they need someone to replace Tank, and they also have the vet Christian Kirk there that Noel can learn behind. So I think Higgins will be on the field a lot, two wide receiver sets, and obviously three wide receiver sets, but I don't think Noel has any impact on Higgins. I don't know if that's what you were getting at, but
I was just saying I think like them drafting Noel later just kind of goes to show that they're
yeah,
really trying to improve that receiver room, and I think like they're viewing Jaden Higgins as an impact player right away.
It's
definitely.
definitely more of a complementary selection than a
Yes.
competing selection.
Yeah. All right. Getting into best value, we have the real picture of Jaden Higgins.
There it is.
Um, uh, now this is controversial. Um, in terms of best value, you drafted him at the 112, which I believe was like I can't think. I want to say it was like maybe 5 picks ahead of
Four or
where he was
Can
supposed
five.
to. Yeah, and
can
so I,
go ahead. Sorry, I have
I
something
was
to
just
say
gonna
if
say,
you don't say it.
yeah. In terms of value, I don't think that that fits the requirements. But Tyler, what
I
do you
was
have to
just
say?
gonna say, notably, Emeka Egbuka and Luther Burden were still on the board at the time. Not saying that, like, I guess Luther specifically, it
Yeah,
was like consensus over Higgins, but just for context of other wide receivers on the board.
and Loveland was also on the board too.
Mhm.
Just so yeah, just in terms of value, basically where they were getting drafted, there was other names ahead of Higgins, but in terms of best value in your eyes, let's see if you can make this one make sense.
I guess the way I saw best value was more along the lines of it was kind of like the sleeper and the best value. Like when I was like looking it over, I was like, I just feel like they go hand in hand for like my case. Like sleeper, I wanted to put JJ in there, just because I like what I explained earlier. And then like best value, I was like looking at, hey, um, he's gonna he's gonna showcase a lot more in his first year, and he's like gonna put a really good foundation out there, through his play. That honestly, if it comes down to it, the Texans look at it, like an older guy like Nico, toward the end of his contract, they might try to move on from him, realizing they got somebody that can replace him that's just younger and they can go fill in other
Mm,
spots. Um, and I was looking at it too, their whole roster. I mean, yeah, they picked Noel later. I just kind of going on a little tangent here, but there's a chance that there's three Iowa State receivers running the field on that team in like 2 years.
Hutchinson
Um,
won't be one of them, by the way.
I mean, he already is out there enough. So,
Trent, you should make one
but
of this like cut up jerseys and have instead of just like the Kelsey one that has two, you should make one that has like three and has all the Iowa State receivers.
exactly, just a little bit of each. I'll have to do that. Spend some money on that. Um,
Just
but no, like so best value. I mean, I think I was looking at it more in cases of like long term. I think like yeah, okay, yeah, I got him at the 112, which is my second pick because I had two picks in the first round, and so yeah, you could say like, oh, could have gotten him in the second round, honestly, at 2-6. I think it was my next pick after that. Um, but from like what I've seen watching Iowa State football and all that, and even some other college athletes like Luther Burden, Colston, I think where he fits, he'll probably have one of the more explosive seasons. I think so.
hey, that's valid. Yeah, I see what you're saying. This is more of a pick that in the future you can look back and be like, oh, if we were to do a redraft, he would have went even higher.
Yeah, he might have been like a top
Yeah.
five or anything. Yeah.
I got you. And then I just looked up Xavier Hutchinson quick. 20 career receptions. So we're
He's
just
out
gonna
there
eat.
running cardio. That's all he said. He said he was out there running. He didn't say he was catching passes.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's fair. That's
running the
fair.
field.
Him and John Mechie together.
All right, and now we get on to the fellas. We've got again Dynasty tight end one for two of us, and we've got Aaron Jones. Reed, let's start with you here, Brock Bowers, and then I'll follow up touching him after.
Can't wait to hear you touch on him. Now that I mean, he took him in the fourth round of the startup draft, and I don't remember what order the pocket of him, Kincaid, and McBride went. I think Browers was last of that group. Um, and then he got the Dynasty tight end one, who's now valued as a top 10 overall fantasy asset in Dynasty leagues. So, yeah, that's pretty good value. We already kind of talked about the player, so nailed it.
Yeah,
That is the correct order.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Just for me, yeah, he went in roughly middle of the fourth round, and in Dynasty startups now, he's getting first round draft capital. So, it's a great ROI. His price is never going to be higher if you're looking to sell. Um, yeah, that's all from me. So Aaron Jones, Tyler.
Well, just disclaimer. I'd probably agree in a vacuum, but wanted to put someone else here that I think's worth mentioning, just so to mix it up a little bit. Aaron Jones was drafted in the ninth round, and I've kind of like for the best value, I've kind of hovered around these later round picks, into like ninth, 10th round and beyond, and selected some guys that are older who proved to be good value. So Aaron Jones was selected in the ninth round, and running backs at this point were kind of getting pretty slim. Definitely gambles in here. I mean, Zamir White was drafted in the eighth
Shout
round.
out, Rob.
That's a tough one. I mean, Blake Corum was drafted in the 10th round.
Shout out,
Yeah.
Rob.
Sorry. Okay, Marshawn Lloyd, I drafted him in the 11th round, but I guess what I'm saying is, Reed, Cevan, I know you guys were really low on Aaron Jones last year, thought it was over him, but he finished as the 15th best running back last year, and um, that was right in line with kind of where he was at from in 2021 and 2022. So to get him in the ninth round there and be able to start him week in, week out, I thought Aaron Jones was a great value from last year. And I know we all have different opinions on Jordan Mason, but I think Aaron Jones has showed that he'll still be plenty relevant. And to get that out of the ninth round, I think is good stuff for Trent.
Yeah, Aaron Jones, only the second time he's ever played a full season. His first time ever having over 300 touches and a career high in scrimmage yards. If we were out on him last year, I think just looking at this right now, I think I'm out on him this year too.
I was
Um,
out on where he was getting drafted last year. I don't necessarily.
I was out on the player,
Oh,
Also,
but
well, but if he was
well,
going in the 15th round, you would have taken him. So it was about where he
did,
was going.
I
did you
just a
did you,
career high in his eighth year in the league as a 30-year-old.
did you say this is only his second full season?
Second season playing like full 17 games, I think is what he meant.
Okay. Well, he
Yeah,
played 16, 14, and 15 before that, but sure.
Gonna bust
well,
him
I
on a
mean,
technicality, sure.
w- it's a fact, no matter
Yeah.
how you draw it up.
It is, but it's like
Okay,
it's misleading.
It's not misleading.
how?
Come on, man.
It's literally what I said.
It's his second. This is
Yeah,
stupid.
it's
If
just
you take
mad that
out
he was
all
on
the
the Packers
games,
and Aaron Jones is just
I'm
running the
saying,
Bears over.
this is you're saying this is only his second full season when he has a 16 game season and a 15 game season is misleading because it's like 15 and 16 are pretty close, albeit I know not the same to 17 full game seasons, but it's
Whether
not like he was like completely injured
if
in all
you
but two seasons of his career.
if you take out all the games he didn't play, he basically played the full season.
God damn.
that's literally yeah. So I
All I
mean,
said is it's misleading.
It's
it's
not,
not though.
he's not misleading.
It
It's
is.
a
I knew
fact.
exactly what he was saying.
It's a fact. Facts can be misleading in the context they're used.
The only context I'm using it for is that he's played in a full season
This is
25% of the time.
this is
I
dumb.
think what Tyler's trying to say is that Stephon, you're out on Aaron Jones because he can't play a full season. He's only done it
No,
twice. but he's
I'm
coming close enough that
Yeah,
no,
if you were
exactly.
to have him
I'm
on your
out
team,
on
you would be happy that he's playing 15
no, no, no,
games a year on average.
no, no, no. I'm out on him because he's 30 and just had his
Well,
most career touches,
okay, you're out on him now, but
and he
4 years ago.
never played a full season before.
That's misleading.
Yeah, my bad. But yeah, and then I already touched. Did I? Yeah, I already did touch on Brock. So, all right, getting into our next topic of conversation, we have the overrated category, and Trent has Isaiah Pacheco, who Reed just got done slurping about, and so Trent's gonna tell us why he is overrated.
Yeah, hard to really pick one of your guys to be overrated. Looking at my roster, never want to root against anybody on my own team. But if I had to look at somebody who I think, from what I've seen, kind of around the media world and all that, people thinking that Pacheco's going to have a big bounce back year, being fully healthy again. I don't think that's quite the case. I think he'll be a middle of the pack, if not maybe tail end, when you're just looking at just the RB1s. Necessarily, I'm not accounting for any RB2s that have an explosive year all of a sudden. But if I'm looking at purely RB1s from start to finish, I think he'll be middle of the pack at best.
So like
So
that'd be like the 15th or 16th best running back in fantasy.
I
Be
mean,
like
just from
18.
just from RB1s though. But if you throw in like, hey, if like a Tyrone Tracy all of a sudden gets going and he's in, like any RB2s that get hot too. So I'm just looking at thinking of the 32 starting running backs. I'm not counting for anything else. But I guess that might not make a whole lot of sense to how you guys are thinking. But the way I'm thinking about it is, I think of the original starters, he's not going to be all that great. And I just looking at the offense that's around him, I think the Chiefs want to be more pass heavy, in my opinion, especially with Rice being back and healthy. Um, Xavier Worthy showing what he can do downfield, and honestly, being out of the backfield, I wouldn't be surprised if they start using him more like what the Niners use Deebo Samuel as. Um, and true, I mean, it just seems like he had one good season with the Chiefs, and then it seems like he might just be more of a carousel now. That might be just two or three guys back there carrying the load, just so they can always have a good, healthy stable of backs, rather than trying to scramble and find someone like Kareem Hunt in the middle of the season. So that's why I have him labeled as overrated on my team.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm under the impression that the Chiefs backfield is going to be more of a committee this year, and th- I know we have a Chiefs fan on the pod. Uh,
I don't let my Chiefs
actually,
fandom overtake my fantasy
he's
common sense.
all I'm saying is he knows more about the Chiefs than me, but my impression is that it's going to be more of a committee, maybe a hot hand approach, or they're going to have two to three guys with certain rules. And so I think we're far away from that dominant season he had. Well, dominant dominant relative
He was
to
RB
what he
14
was.
points per game. That's pretty
Yeah.
solid.
Okay, yeah. So I think that was a one-off, in my opinion. And so I agree with the overrated tag. Any pushback?
I don't. I I mean, I don't think you're entirely wrong. Like it will be more of a committee. Like he was averaging 20 to 25 touches a game in his big year, and I agree. I don't think he'll get that. He's definitely on the lower side. Like I see more 15 to 20 range, but the offense will be better than it was that year. I hope. He's still an explosive athlete. The Chiefs should be scoring a lot of points. They used him as a receiver, and I don't think anybody is at least an immediate threat to his receiving work. I think Rashard Smith could be eventually, but I don't think he's like a first half of the year threat to that. I don't think Kareem Hunt is anything but insurance. Elijah Mitchell doesn't really have a receiving profile, and Carson Steele neither does he. So I don't see any real threat to him being the lion's share of the touches in the backfield. But at the same time, yeah, he's not going to get 20 to 25 touches a game anymore. I would be surprised at that. So I just think when you're getting that volume and this quality of an offense for someone that's already done it before, I'd be pretty hard pressed to see him fall out of like the top 24 running backs, which is what it kind of sounds like you guys are aiming for.
Well, the only part that you said that I struggle with is when you say that volume, because I don't like his good year. He had
Hmm.
200, he had about 250 touches. Would
Does
you
that
say,
include
oh,
postseason or no?
no, just in the four, well, he only played 14 games in
Yeah,
2023.
250 touches in 14 games is 18 touches per game.
Yeah. And so would you, if that was the line for this year, what
I'd
would you
probably take the
take?
under and say he's like 15 to 18. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it'll be interesting. I mean, I'm out on him personally, but I definitely, if he's a back end RB2, I think that's completely fine. And I think that's honestly what I'm expecting is like the 20 to 28-ish, which that's a big range.
I'd be
But
really surprised if he was 20, Robbie 28.
well, I guess only time will tell. Tyler, you got any thoughts on Patch or
Yeah,
no?
go to the next slide.
Oh, oh, let's
His
just get right into it, Tyler.
his ADP right now in redraft leagues is running back 23.
Yeah, I would say that I wouldn't call that his floor or his ceiling, honestly.
All
Tyler,
right. Yeah. Well, I looked at it a little bit differently. I'm just looking at the running backs that have been there since Mahomes has been there. I don't feel like there's been a lot of stability in the running back room overall. Obviously, we've mentioned some of the big names there, but also, I mean, Jerick McKinnon had plenty of value one year, as well as Clyde Edwards-Helaire 2020. Damian Williams had some solid time there. And so I struggle with Pacheco uh, to, I guess, separate from him from that. I think he is better than many of these running backs that Mahomes has had on his offense there. But I, part of me kind of believes that's the way the Chiefs like to do it is, kind of rotate these guys in and out and get the freshest pair of legs out there. And so I I don't know. I think I do have more concerns about the depth behind Pacheco on them vulturing touches from him on a regular basis. But I have more of a concern that than you do, it sounds like, Reed. So that's where I'm at with Pacheco. And I don't know. I just, like I said, I don't really like drafting him in redraft. And I think this year is, I don't want to say make or break, but really kind of, I guess, shows where his projection or where he's headed, I guess, his trajectory. Um, I guess that's every player. So, but I'm
I
saying I
just
feel like there's a lot unknown about him still, even though he has had success.
I you were listing his running backs, and I hear you listing running backs that are mediocre and the Chiefs' offense is elevated. Jerick McKinnon was never
Yes.
a fantasy asset, but he was valuable when he was on the Chiefs. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is barely on our roster right now, and he was a top running back for, I believe it was 1 or 2 years with the Chiefs, top being
Right.
like, serviceable in fantasy. Kareem Hunt was elite when he was starting there, and then Pacheco had a great year. So I don't really see what your concern is with
But
that
I'm
because you just
saying,
listed running backs that are worse than him
yes, but
performing well.
my point is that none of those guys had multiple years of success there.
That's just because they moved on, and there's no clear threat to Pacheco this year. Kareem Hunt signed for like
I
$1.5 million. Elijah Mitchell signed for less than that. Carson Steele was an undrafted free agent, and who was the last one? Brashard Smith was a seventh round pick. So I don't see any of those guys as
I
an
mean, so
immediate
is
threat to Pacheco.
Pacheco.
Yeah, but he is an established running back. If you were telling me Pacheco was also a seventh round pick this year, then yeah, we're talking about a different story. But once draft
Yes.
capital means very little when you're in year four.
Yeah, no, I
So
I understand. I'm just saying, like, the seventh round pick, it's kind of funny to
yeah,
argue
no,
there
it is. And
with
I think
Pacheco.
Brashard Smith is good. Like, I think he has a chance in the latter half of the year to make an impact as a receiver. But I don't think
Yeah.
week one that there's any threat there. And if Pacheco is playing well again, then he's just going to keep getting the touches that he
I
gets.
I guess you just kind of proved my point though. Is like the offense does elevate the player there typically, it feels like. So
Yeah,
I just
I agree.
at his ADP, I'd rather take someone like DeAndre Swift or Aaron Jones, who I think is going around there that range in redraft. So I just think he's priced a little bit too high for me, but that's fine.
Yeah, I agree in your make it your break it year for him. Obviously, this is or he was seventh round
Contract
or
year for him,
undrafted. Yeah,
seventh
okay.
round. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
So right
contract year
into
for
it.
him.
Yep, contract year for him. This to me a comp for him could be, and we can look back at this in a couple years, but it could be Philip Lindsay, late round pick or even a UDFA, dominant for 1 or 2 years and then out of the league. So
Hot
solid
take.
comp. But yeah,
Uh,
let's get
I,
on to it.
I was a big Philip Lindsay guy back in the day. Dude was a stud.
Yeah,
He like
he was.
he ran one direction straight.
That's what Pacheco does.
Pacheco's straight line speed is elite, but he has like minimal shiftiness, is putting it lightly. But
Yes.
he runs like a 4.35. So once he gets moving, he's moving, but very little in terms of lateral quickness.
Yeah. All right. Judkins in the overrated. He was the third running back off the board in the real NFL draft.
hmm
So,
Well, Quinshon Judkins coincidentally goes as RB 24, one running back slot after Isaiah Pacheco. And to me, it's absolutely wild that he is priced right next to Isaiah Pacheco, a guy, and it's again, we're talking specifically for 2025, a guy who's on the worst team in the NFL, or sorry, the worst offense in the NFL, presumably, who they also drafted another rookie running back in round 4 with no certain quarterback and someone who, not an elite receiving profile as a running back in college, whether that be situational or otherwise, because of who he was sharing the backfield with. So you're talking about a guy in an offense that is going to need to score touchdowns to be relevant, and the offense is not going to be very good. So to me, again, it just happened to be that his ADP is right next to Pacheco, but to me, that's just a no-brainer that Pacheco is clearly a step ahead of him for this year specifically. So I just think he's a little overrated. And again, even from a dynasty perspective, like you're hoping that the Browns figure out the quarterback situation because again, he needs to score touchdowns likely to be relevant. And you're not going to do that without a solid quarterback. So yeah, I just think he's a little overrated. I don't know if I would have taken him in the draft where he went. I definitely will not be touching him in redraft at the ADP he's at now. But overall, I think the player is fine. And I think in the right situation, he could be fine. But I just don't think the situation is sorry. I don't think the player is good enough to overcome the situation that he's in right now.
all valid points from you. I think just with the way I play fantasy, I if I was on the clock and it was between them two, I think I would just lean Quinshawn because that's just my personality. Like we've never seen it with Quinshawn. So I think I think he deserves to be with him in ADP.
So
Because
a running back on a
we're
good offense that finished as RB 14 1 year ago, you're taking the guy in a terrible offense that's never shown it over him.
so based on all the things we just talked about, right? Pacheco, we've already seen Pacheco at his best.
hmm
I don't think he can. I think he could emulate what he did in 2023. I don't think he can
That's
do
fine.
anything more than that, right? And so with me knowing what his ceiling is, which is we'll call it 1100 rushing yards and 8 touchdowns, right?
We'll
And
call it
50
RB
receptions.
14.
Sure. And points per game. I'm just looking because he missed 3 games. And so
Never played a
I don't
full
know.
season. Just
That is
kidding.
not true. Not true. But all I'm getting at is we know what Pacheco is, and if RB 15, whatever is, if that's his ceiling, I mean, I get your points. In terms of 2025, I'm not drafting either of them, if we're being honest. I would just pick my shot in the dark with what we haven't seen before. But your points are valid in terms of bad offense, no quarterback,
Well, what
whatever.
ceiling does Judkins have to be RB
We
14
have
or better?
we have no idea. What ceiling did Raheem Mostert have to be RB3 that 1 year?
They
Or
scored
Jamal
the most
Williams?
points in the league that year.
Exactly.
So the Browns are not going to come even close to that.
That's fair.
Raheem Mostert scored like 20 touchdowns that year. The Browns
I
might
know.
score 20 touchdowns this year total.
Okay, that's
Okay,
crazy.
that's a bit much, but you get what I'm saying. So I
Yes,
don't
it's
see in a 1 year perspective how Judkins has anywhere near the ceiling that Pacheco has.
I don't want either of them. How about that?
That's fair. I don't know if I'd be taking running backs in that range either, but right next to each other to me is crazy. And if you look at some of the running backs that go after him, which are, I think these are all better bets that you would try to fight to put ahead of Pacheco. Aaron Jones is RB 25, Henderson's 26, Pollard 27, DeAndre Swift 28. So like all of those guys I think are better arguments to be ahead of Pacheco than Judkins. And then of course Caleb Johnson number 30. But just
Big
wild to me.
Johnson. Big Johnson guy.
Big Johnson.
All right, let me talk about Jordan Love. I think I must have forgot I had him in overrated because I think I gassed him up earlier,
You
which
definitely did. At least a
yeah,
little bit.
which I don't like doing. Why is he overrated? That's a great question.
I think you're finding this on the fly.
Yeah, I forgot I put him here. Okay, so obviously 2023 he was QB5. And then last year I know he missed 2 games, but they really established the run while signing Josh Jacobs. Kind of just turned into a run first offense. And then I know I touched on the weather. The weather does have an impact. Um, Buffalo's a great example of this. They love to run the ball in December. Um, but as far as Jordan Love, the quarterback, in both years, I know Tyler just said something about he threw a interception to the Bears and then didn't throw one for like 4 weeks or whatever.
No, he threw it in week 11 and then didn't throw one for the rest of the year.
Yeah, which week 11 was the Bears.
Savon, well,
Yep.
why don't we just skip this? Because rather than having you defend a take that you don't actually believe in, why don't
No,
we
I
just
believe
like move on?
I'm talking and got cut off twice.
You just said, okay.
Thank you. Jordan Love, the quarterback, he's always been one to, how do I word it? He's very sketchy, indecisive. Yeah, I'm just not a Packers fan. We can move on. Droppable. Dawson Knox. So, quick story about this. Reed and I were in Discord the other day, just going over your team, and we could have made a team with all the droppable players on your team. Um, I'm sure you had a plethora of names you could have thrown out here, but why did Dawson Knox stick out the most?
I think just his situation in Buffalo being behind Dalton Kincaid. I think he's only taken more um, of the workload. Guys like Keon Coleman having more of a workload. I don't know. I just don't see him really being a factor in that offense anymore. I think he's kind of getting like weeded out essentially, and unless he gets traded to another team that needs a tight end, he's just someone who's either going to sit on a team or will find the waiver wire, I guess.
Fair enough. Before we move on, I do have to ask this question.
Okay.
So in the offseason, you dropped Wandale Robinson, who had 140 targets.
Yeah, I knew
You
this
dropped
question was coming.
Keenan Allen, who had 120 targets, and you dropped Joshua Palmer. Don't know the targets, but it it was. Does anybody know
You
how
just
many
signed a
targets?
contract is the more important part.
Yes. What was the thought process there over, guys like Knox and then the next 3 guys that we have?
So could I have picked one of those guys as like a droppable in this case, even though they weren't, if you look at my team already on there? Because I thought about that, and I probably should ask that question before, but I was just going to
No, it
stick
is
with
just
that
the
current
current team.
roster. Okay. Um, what made me drop those guys? I think it was just, I mean, situation. I don't know. Wanda Robinson just, yeah, a lot of targets, but I mean, kind of like what Reed was beating on earlier with the Browns is like the Giants just got so pass heavy, so they're just throwing anyway. So it's like how much of those are, or it was 150 targets or 150 receptions? I'm trying to.
It was not
Um,
150
I was
receptions.
gonna say it was not 150. Okay.
He didn't break the
So I
record,
just
no.
like I had just like a mental lapse for a second. I was like, wait, what? Okay. Anyway, so I was like, how much of those are like true like targets rather than just late, chuck it down the field, let's see if something happens, kind of um target more so. So I was kind of trying to think about that, and I wasn't gonna go back and watch 25 straight hours of film on Wandale Robinson. Didn't seem necessary. New quarterback situation for the Giants. League Neighbors already there. I just think Neighbors is going to get the workload. Tyrone Tracy is the running back. I think he's going to keep excelling. Um, so I just think Robinson might get phased out, might not be an option. So I was like, I really, really don't want to have him on the roster. Plus, I was kind of doing some other like research and was like, you know, get 4 taxi squad spots. I have 6 rookies, so it's kind of one of those things of, hey, do I think a rookie receiver basically would he be more beneficial to have on the roster potentially than Robinson? Kind of same goes for Palmer, um, and then kind of blanking on the third guy already because just
Keenan.
Keenan. Oh yeah, yeah. I'm not a big Bears fan, and he's a free agent anyway, so it doesn't matter.
All right. Well, valid or not, it happened. Can't
Yep.
can't change it.
Nope.
All right. Oh, we got a couple of Texans and a former Charger. Tyler, let's start with you on Mike Williams.
Yeah, he was a fun player. He's probably the most name recognizable of the gentlemen here, but he had some rough drops last year in New York, and I kind of just feel like the age is kind of catching up to him here. I don't think he'll be competing for much or for many targets behind Ladd and Trey Harris and Quentin Johnston, and there's one more guy there. Um, so I just Mike Williams probably droppable, but I mean he's totally fine on a roster too. I mean maybe he finds a fountain of youth and is semi-relevant this year.
Fair. I was just looking up Mike Williams, so if you guys aren't, he's played 8 seasons in the league. How many times do you think he's been a top 30 wide receiver?
Now he's someone you could probably say has never played a full season
Yeah.
and actually
Once.
feel comfortable
Once.
and not misled saying it.
Once.
Yeah, that sounds right.
But how many times do you guys think he's been a top 30 receiver?
Once.
Oh, yes, which is insane. Because I feel like every time we were in redraft, like he was just someone that
Well,
you
points per
should
game
draft.
demon because he was
Yeah.
always hurt.
I had a 4 year stretch where he was only missing 1 or 2 games, but
So
Wait, I might have said the Jets. He played with the Steelers last year.
he played with both last year.
Both,
yeah.
double, both.
All
Yeah,
right, read your first Texan up, Damian Pierce.
Yeah, Dameon Pierce is the least rosterable player on any roster in the league right now. He is
thanks.
he
I don't agree with it, Trent.
I
Tyler
I
has the
don't
most. Tyler
Ty,
does.
Cevan listed all the players that he thought were close to him, and I didn't think there was anybody that matched him. I mean, he's now the fourth string running back on the Texans. When Mixon was hurt last year, he was also hurt, so he didn't play. They drafted a running back this year. They signed Nick Chubb rather than letting Dameon Pierce do anything as the second or third running back in their offense. I don't really know what, like, even in the case of like Mike Williams or Dawson Knox, like you can see a path to production. If Dalton Kincaid gets hurt, if Mike Williams catches a couple of long touchdowns early in the year, like there's a path to relevance there. Dameon Pierce needs 3 injuries right now to be the starting running back. And at that point, if they're 3 injuries deep, I think they're probably signing someone off the street to come help out. So I don't know anybody else that would be less rosterable than if Dameon Pierce was on the waiver wire. I It wouldn't even cross my mind to pick him up. So I would spend negative fob to get him. I would need to get paid fob dollars to have him on my roster. So
Well put. Only pushback I have is he's arguably the fifth running back, depending on how you feel on Derek Gumbawale.
sure, that I won't fight that if you feel that way.
Okay.
Agreed, I will say
Well,
I agree. Yeah, it was between Knox and Pierce. At the same time, I just think I know Knox is 1 away. You said yeah, Pierce obviously 3 away, 4 away, however you want to look at it. But I think yeah, both those guys, if they want to see playing time this year, are probably just going to be hoping that they get traded to some team that gets ridiculed with running back injuries. So,
Hmm.
yeah,
but
it's sad though, because Damian Pierce was like the new hotness everybody
I
wanted when he was a rookie.
yeah, it was almost like the Cam Akers, almost like before Cam got hurt. Like now you
Yeah.
just can't bounce back and just floating from team to team. So
And then me follow up, short and sweet, Kate Stover. He was a rookie last year. He's going into year two. He's still behind Dalton Schultz. They have a plethora of wide receivers and running backs now, and so I think without an injury to Schultz, which is very possible as he's getting up there in age, then Kate Stover will be irrelevant. Uh, so
I
yeah,
think I think this is the most non-droppable player
Agreed.
here.
I think there's somebody that didn't get mentioned that's more droppable than Cade Stover.
and that would be
Jalen Naylor.
What?
I mean,
Okay.
yeah, there if we're being honest, like I said, we could build a team of the droppables. I mean, we
I think Jalen Naylor's rosterable.
see,
But
I did
is he
too
more
until Reed and I
rosterable than
talked.
Cade Stover? Okay, that's
Yes.
fair. I wouldn't fight it. I think they're close. They're both like role players, and but Cade Stover is at least younger, I guess.
No,
I mean, he is
tech. Okay, on
factually younger.
technicality, yes,
I was just stating a fact. If you take out all the years that Jalen Naylor is older than Cade Stover, he's basically the same age.
exactly. Okay, we're about to get into it now. This is where the episode really picks up, fellas.
Okay.
Is it?
Getting into the quarterbacks. I believe we should let Trent go first and then save the questions for the end. So Reed, or sorry, Trent,
Oh.
take over.
What am I doing here?
Just an overview on your
Oh my
overview
court.
on
You
your
just want to
quarterback
know?
room.
Okay. I
You
mean,
sh
How you
you
feel
sh
about your
you
quarterback
should
room?
tell the people
Your
who's in the room. It's fun.
Oh yeah, we got JJ McCarthy acquired via trade from Sumner. Jordan Love was from the inaugural draft. Matt Stafford, double-digit rounds in the inaugural. And then we got Mr. William Howard, Ohio State alum that we got in the back of the rookie draft. So Trent, take it away. How you feeling about your quarterback room? What's to like, what's to add, and touch on Will Howard when you can.
yeah. So, yeah, really high on JJ McCarthy. Has been said early in this episode. He is my sleeper. I do think he could be. I think he could slide into the top 10 in fantasy quarterbacks this year. Would not surprise me one bit with the weapons he has around him. The HCOC he has guiding his career now. Um, so yeah, I think I'm really high on him. I'm hoping he can show out this year, not only just for my fantasy team, but for my real team, the Vikings. Um, as for the next guy on the list, Jordan Love. Yeah, I wish Toyotathon was like an all year round thing. Might make me more high on him. I'm kind of hoping that he just really bounces back from last year. Kind of dealing with the injury. I think one thing the Packers, were worried about all year was re-injuring that knee, and if not fully tearing that ACL potentially. I think Love was healthy enough. I don't think there was pain that he was necessarily playing on, but I think there was probably stability issues with that knee that he was probably fighting through the rest of the season, which might have, obviously hindered his quarterback play and his confidence back there in the pocket. So hoping that, full season of recovery, all that he comes back. New rookie receiver that's highly touted, Matthew Golden. Hopefully he can show out and really be that guy in the receiving room that can help kind of put Jordan Love back on the map, I'd say. Um, as for Matt Stafford, he's kind of, I would say, my wild card for this year. He's obviously up there in age, but the offense that he has around him, there's the potential there where he could have just some crazy year where he's slinging it and all that, and it's just you're wondering where it came from. So yeah, he's the wild card of the group. Um, Kind of one of the reasons why I drafted Will Howard actually is because Stafford's up there in age. I know Howard's kind of I guess listed as a third string, not usually probably a second string more so. Um, Aaron Rodgers obviously announcing that this is just going to be a one and done, for the Steelers and for his career. Kind of gives me better hopes that Will Howard next year, after a year behind, a really good veteran like Aaron Rodgers, will be ready to take over, and that's where Stafford will be probably off my roster, and Howard will take over that kind of third quarterback spot. I'm really high on Howard, championship quarterback, led his team greatly. I think it speaks highly to a quarterback and just to a player in general to come into a new program like Ohio State, coming from K-State, leading that team all the way to a title. Kind of being battle tested here and there. I know they had a really bad game against Michigan at the end of the year, but that's just a rivalry game to begin with. That's the type of game you're going to be in anyway, whether you're home or away. But just to face the adversity in that game, and then kind of really just ball out in the playoffs. Um, really enjoyed it. I mean, he's got confidence in the receivers that he's got around him. I think DK be a big help. Obviously, it's a big body receiver. I think DK will enjoy kind of being the solo focus again of the offense. A steady tight end and Pat. That's always great to have. And then a rookie running back, or potentially to be second year, I guess, Caleb Johnson, to tote the rock is also a great help. So
Yes, I'll jump in real quick. I disagree with the Stafford being the wild card. I would say McCarthy's more of your wild card, considering he's never played an NFL snap. I think we know what we're going to get with Jordan or with Matt Stafford. He's your mid QB2, which is perfectly fine in a super flex league. And then Love, uh, maybe a high end QB2 to a back end QB1. And then yeah, McCarthy is the wild card. I'm in a McCarthy. I've said it before. McConnell or O'Connell has his ways with quarterback. He has his way with quarterbacks. And so I love the room, the big three. I hear all your points about Will Howard. I just think it was not the time and the place. Respectfully, you got fifth round draft capital in real life. Um, I think Tyler and I had this conversation maybe a week or two ago about Will Howard. Or yeah, I think it was all three of us. We were talking about him, and uh, I, I I don't know how else to say it instead of I appreciate you picking him because it led me to getting Mr. Besh. And so personally, I feel like that wasn't the time and the place, maybe a round or two later, just considering what he got on real NFL draft capital. But he has all the ability in the world to turn that pick into, in hindsight, that was a great pick. And so only time will tell because it's not going to happen this year, but you got a taxi spot for him. Breed, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, especially the part with McCarthy being the wild card. I'm not a huge fan of McCarthy the player, but the system can overcome a lot of things. Big Kevin O'Connell fan. Obviously, he has tons of weapons at his disposal. So, if he fails, it'll be on him. So, I don't know really have any expectations. Sorry, I don't know what to expect from him, but I would feel more comfortable if he was my QB3 than my QB2. But that's where Stafford can kind of be a stabilizing force. I just don't really know how much ceiling Stafford has. Like how often do pure drop back passers actually, you know, put up a top 8, top 7, top 6 season? Like they got to throw 35, 40 touchdowns, which is, possible for Matthew Stafford. He's a great quarterback, but I just don't know if that's, what the chances of that actually happening are. So, I mean, even if he puts up a year where he's mid to back end QB2, like that's valuable when you don't know what you're getting from McCarthy. So definitely not the worst quarterback room in the league, and there's some untapped upside, but I think it could be a make or break room for you with McCarthy and Stafford and Love. So no comments on Will Howard.
Tyler?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I like the construction of it. That's my main takeaway, but we've all kind of said that, so
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about it is has very limited rushing upside, which is a stabilizer in Superflex quarterback leagues. So we'll see if the yards and the touchdowns can make up the difference for that. All right, getting into our quarterback question. What is more likely? One quarterback inside the top 10 between his big three, or all three finish outside the top 12?
This is a well-formed question. I'm not really sure because I think it's possible that I'll probably go three quarterbacks outside the top 12 because just, Stafford's a much better NFL quarterback than he is a fantasy quarterback. So I wouldn't bet on him being a top 12 quarterback. McCarthy, as we talked about, is a wild card as opposed to, you know what you're getting. And then at that point, is Love going to be a top 12 quarterback? And while I am a Love fan, I would not rank him in my top 12 quarterback. So I think just by default, I would go there, but I could definitely see Love being a top 12 quarterback. I struggle to see it with Stafford and would be surprised if McCarthy was able to do it. But I would go outside, three outside the top 12.
Okay. Tyler, what are your
Uh,
thoughts? One inside the top 10 or all three outside the top 12?
there's not much of a cushion here with like the number 11 spot, basically.
Yep.
Kind of a
It's
useless
just,
spot, it sounds like. No one cares about that one.
That's the fence sitting spot, which you can't
but
have.
I'm saying there's barely any room to fence it. So it's like,
Sounds
I
like
don't
a
know.
real fence. A real fence is pretty pointy at the top. You can't really sit on it.
I ain't sitting on a fence.
Um, I'll I'll take the roll of the dice with McCarthy or Love finishing top
Okay,
10. I'll say one
pick
top 10.
pick
Just one of them top
I
10.
know, pick one.
To finish
No,
top 10?
the question
Yeah,
was
if
not who is
Yeah.
going to do it, it's
I
will
know,
someone.
but we're here now discussing. So who do you think has the most likely chance of the three?
Most likely chance it's Love, but I'll say it's McCarthy.
Trent, what about you?
I'm gonna go with McCarthy.
One inside? Yeah, I think I'm on the same. I think one would finish inside the top 10, and I think I would bet on McCarthy as well.
Okay,
I
but
think he'll skate by it probably at like 9 or 10.
maybe I'll say Jordan Love then because let's not let it be forgotten that he was like a top 10 quarterback in
Yeah, he was
2023.
QB5.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
See, people are wilding out here saying a guy who missed all of last year is going to finish in the top 10 just because his system is good.
I was saying that just for
Hey,
fun to
Josh
be
Dobbs
different.
looked like QB1 on like a 15-hour learning the playbook on this
Exactly.
guy. So
All right, getting into the running backs. And so it's a room. It's definitely a room. We got Aaron Jones and Pacheco, who remain on the team from the inaugural draft, along with Damian Pierce and Tyler Algier. Tyler Algier, valuable handcuff. And then we got Roshan from a trade, and then Scadaboo and Quinshawn from the rookie draft. And so, Trent, just give a quick overview on your running back room.
yeah, running back room, kind of up in the air. Hoping kind of the younger guys, Cam, Judkins, and even Roshan, can maybe show glimpses this season, if not two of them showing up big and getting real playing time, scoring valuable fantasy points. I got the older side and Aaron Jones. He's a very steady back, I would say. Hopefully he can complete his second straight full season, right? Is that what he's going for? Um, really put the nail in the coffin for Cevan's fact, I guess. Um, Isaiah Pacheco, like I said earlier, it's just he seems kind of a wild card. Maybe I hope he proves me wrong. I want all my guys to prove me wrong. But yeah, when I had to pick an overrated player, it was him. Um, I think with his age though, he's still in like that happy middle. Basically you could say his prime essentially. With where he's at, so hopefully he can actually take a step forward and get back on track to where he was 2 seasons ago. Um, As for Damian Pierce, we already discussed. Yeah, he probably should be on the waiver wire, but I don't know. He's just one of those guys I'm hoping to gets traded and finds a good home that he can be like a good RB2 because I think with where he was a couple years ago and everybody's hype around him. I mean, I think he's got that capability. It's just he got ridiculed with injuries. Mixon comes in and Chubb comes in. I think he just got quickly shuffled down the board. Never got a chance. Tyler Algier, great handcuff. I mean, if Bijan ever gets hurt, or even if he doesn't get hurt, Tyler is a really good RB2 in my opinion, and has showcased that he can handle the workload. It just kind of depends on how that offense is going to really shake out this year. But I like it for this year. I think it's going to be steady. I don't have any barn burners, kind of like a Devon A. Chain or Gibbs or any of those guys where it's like, yep, this one guy's going to get me 30 a week. I've got guys that are going to get me hopefully 12 to 16, hopefully consistently. So,
Yeah, to me, just the way kind of your team shaking up, seems like it's going to be a good year to see what you have. As in terms of that, I like Scadaboo, Quinshawn, Roshan, and Tyler. Just as I like one guy to show something this year, and maybe elevate into your RB2 spot. Um, I mean, if it like you said, if Bijan goes down, that's you got one of the more valuable handcuffs in the league in Tyler Algier, so that's always good to have. Use him as a trade piece, whatever. And then yeah, between those three other guys I mentioned, um, two being rookies, uh, we've never seen them do it, so maybe they come on strong as a rookie. Maybe you see their role and what it's going to be for the next 3 years after this. And then, yeah, so I do like the upside of some of the guys on the bench. I think the starting two is kind of on the lower end, but uh, with having some unknown potential guys, it's a fine room for the construction of the team. Tyler?
Yeah, I like the room overall, and I think there's a real chance here that the running backs kind of become a surplus on Trent's team. Not saying I'm going to bet on it or anything like that, but if Scadaboo carves out a role, maybe finds nose has a nose for the end zone quite a bit in New York. If Judkins, I'm on the other side of the coin than Reed is with him. I think there's a chance that through, 8 weeks or something, Trent has a lot of viable running backs here. And if he wanted to part with someone older like Jones or Pacheco that are producing, or someone like Algier who maybe is filling in, I think Trent could really get some value from someone who's in need of a running back. Maybe someone like Reed, who knows? But I think there's a lot of good pieces here, and I think there's probably more than a 50% chance that one of these secondary or tertiary running backs on his team finds some real value, and Trent is sitting on either a good weekly start or someone he can flip.
Yeah, I agree with I agree with that 100%. Reed?
No new comments here. I think you guys covered it all really well.
Perfect. All right, let's get into the running back question. How many of the top five running backs will finish inside the top 30? And the five I named would be Aaron Jones, Isaiah Pacheco, Cam Scadaboo, Quinshon Judkins, and Roshan Johnson.
Can we count Damian Pierce for this question? Because my answer changes if he's in there.
Uh, how does that change your answer?
Because he's rosterable. Sorry. I wouldn't lie and say he's rosterable, but I'm gonna say the two
I'm gonna say three.
and list your
Four.
three.
Aaron Jones, Isaiah Pacheco, Quinshon.
Four.
Four? Who's the fourth?
Scatterboo.
Oh,
And so it's top 30, right? Of the
yep.
five. I'm gonna go. I'll go four. I'll go Jones, Pacheco, Judkins, and Johnson. Though I don't know.
Roshan. I like it.
Cam could be sneaky though. He could make go 5 for 5 if he does find his niche in that offense.
So all five for you.
No, no. I said could. I didn't say
Okay. That's
Damian
fair. And
Pierce could be a top 30 back too if we're going with the could.
good, yeah. And Reed, I'm assuming you're
And I
just
could
Aaron
have
Jones
I
and
could have been
Pacheco.
drafted to the NFL if I would have just been a little bit bigger, probably.
That's what I'm saying.
How much bigger can you get, Trent?
But
Jeez. But Reed, you were just the top two, right?
Uh, I would bet that my favorites would be those two, but I don't have a lot of confidence in his bench running backs. But it wouldn't surprise me if one of them did it and one of the older guys pieced out, i.e., Aaron Jones, and when Jordan Mason takes all of his work. So
Okay, and who would that younger guy be if you had to
if
pick
I had
one?
to bet on one, it'd probably still be Quinshon.
Okay. So so Pacheco gets phased out of the top 30, but Quinshon could take his spot, is what you just said.
That's exactly what I said. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Let's get on to the receivers. So uh this is I like this room overall. We got Devontae Smith and George Pickens, who we got both from me. Um, we got Mike Evans, the ageless wonder from the inaugural, which is your only player from the only receiver from the inaugural draft. It's a fun fact. We got Cedric Tillman, Jalen Naylor, Jaden Higgins from the rookie draft, and then we got Mike Williams, Rashad Bateman, and Rock Taylor, who I am unfamiliar with that boy's game. So
I I think it's fun to note here that Trent has acquired four of these receivers from trades, and all four of those players were acquired from the three hosts here. He
Who
acquired
wow.
Tillman from me, Bateman from Tyler, and then Pickens and Devontae from Cevan.
I didn't even know Cevan had Devontae at one point.
Yeah,
He traded him
in
for
the
Puka.
Puka. Yeah, no, that wasn't the trade.
Puka and a first. Or sorry, Puka for Devontae and a first. Savon
This
loves those picks.
still wasn't the trade,
That
but
was
that's
okay. I think you had a third in there too, maybe.
still wasn't the trade.
Okay. It
Anyways,
was definitely Devontae and a first.
that was included, yes, but there was more. Anyways, Trent, quick overview of your
You want me to
receiver.
flash the screenshot up there of me being right?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, I will.
Trent, receiver room.
Yeah, so the got some good youth. I would say I'm like right in the middle. If you're looking at true startable receivers week in and week out, um, main concern is Mike Evans' age. And last year, that middle end with his hamstring injury. Hoping that's something that was just a last season thing, and he can stay healthier because I do think he's got a couple more years left in him. Um, but yeah, if those injuries like a hamstring or something else comes up, he's probably going to start going downhill pretty quick. Um, yeah, guys like Tillman, it. I see what you guys were saying about him earlier. Um, I'm hoping he does bounce back and kind of gets back on that track before he got the concussion that kind of just hindered him the rest of the season. Guys like Naylor and Bateman, though, on the bench, I think Naylor could be somewhat of a factor. McCarthy is one in college. He liked to spread the wealth around a lot. He's not like a specific, I'm going to target one guy. I know he's never had a receiver like a Justin Jefferson or anything like that, but I think truly when teams have good game plans against the wide receiver one, wide receiver two, and tight end, then looking at wide receiver three, he's not necessarily afraid of doing that. So I think that's where like Naylor could probably step up and kind of showcases in games like that. Um, Bateman kind of came on late last year. It just seemed like he Lamar was more looking his way at times. I don't know. That's just the feeling I got. I got him through a trade with Tyler. I would have to go back and look at that trade, Tyler. I don't know if you
Yeah,
know what
ba
what I
ba Bateman for Tank Bigsby.
yeah for Tank and yep. And so I already had a pretty full running back room too. So I was just like, oh, let me put in another receiver. I could easily do that because looking at where I was going to go with the draft, that was another reason for that. So, um, yeah, that wild card, Rock Taylor. I saw a lot of him in college at times, and he just seems like he's gonna be like another like George Pickens in a way, but like very, very under the radar. He's got that like tenacity of like it's my ball. I don't think he's got the diva mentality that Pickens has, um, which would be a good thing. But I mean, he's got that. He's got pretty good foot speed. He's really sturdy frame. So it would be kind of interesting to see if he can truly come out. And I heard a lot of good hype around him out of the rookie mini camp and all that. So taking a shot there, seeing if he'll pan out.
Yeah, maybe Rock Taylor will be this year's Jalen Coker. Just under the radar. Nobody was drafting him. Shout out to Sean. Hyped him up. Um, when we were going to work together, he hyped him up after the draft so much. And I'm like, dude, I've never heard of this guy. And then he made the team and was successful relative to his situation. And so for me, just quickly, Devontae Smith, George Pickens, Mike Evans. I like the trio. I don't think there's a dominant alpha wide receiver one fantasy wise. I like Pickens in the flex. Smitty, he's a solid wide receiver too. Same with Evans. He's going to be 32, and I mean he's got to stop eventually. So We'll see. But I like the trio. And then as far as the bench, Tillman and Higgins are the most intriguing to me personally. There's a lot, obviously, Higgins has never done it. Tillman's only done it for a short stretch, so some upside there. And then Jalen Naylor depends on their new rookie, Ty Felton. Naylor wasn't relevant before this last year, and now you add in the fact that he'll be at best the fourth option with a first year starting quarterback. Don't know if it's a recipe for success. We will find out. Not going to touch on Mike Williams. Rashad Bateman, to me, feels more like a better NFL wide receiver than a fantasy wide receiver. I think maybe you guys share the same sentiment. Don't know if I use that right. But yeah, overall, um, I like the big three for what maybe not for what roles they're gonna have to play, but I like them individually. And then I like the upside of Tillman and Higgins. Tyler,
Uh,
yep, toss to you.
yeah, I won't say much about the top receivers here, but I want to talk about Rashad Bateman on my
Oh my
soapbox
God.
for 2 minutes. Just
Two
give me two
minutes? You
I'll
minutes.
give
need
you
two
five
No,
full
minutes.
minutes?
No, no,
less
you
than two
got two
minutes.
minutes. 2 minutes.
Trent, I need you to know that if Rashad Bateman comes out firing, it's not a fluke, okay? Rashad Bateman is a beast. Please do not sell low on him unless it's to me. I will
Isn't that
gladly
what you
take
did?
him back. No, I didn't sell low on him. I love Tank Bigsby as well.
You traded him for the head of a part of a three-way committee.
That was not
Rashad
selling low. That was a fine trade.
Rashad Bateman was a former first round pick. There's a fantasy
Yeah,
website called
That is
Fan,
not a good tag. I'm sorry.
huh?
Being a former first round pick is when you know
Means you're
you're not
turbo
good.
dog shit, as the great tweet
Yes.
says.
No, okay, it doesn't matter. No, it's the same thing as saying they played in a full season or whatever. It's like it's a
No.
fact. He was a
If
former first round pick.
Yeah, I know, but they only bring it up once they're
Oh
asked.
my
Yeah.
gosh.
However, if you value draft capital still for fifth-year players, I've got
No,
some guys to sell you.
okay,
When's the
whatever.
when
It
wait,
doesn't
when's
change
the last
anything I
time
have to say about him. It
I
doesn't
know,
change
but
any.
when's the last time Justin Jefferson got called a former first round
That's
pick?
fine. I'm not even arguing that. I'm just call him Rashad motherfucking Bateman if you want.
I'll pass
Fantasy
on that one.
fantasy points data has Rashad Bateman ranked as a top 10 receiver in average separation score over the last 2 years. He is so good at separating from the defense. I watched so many Ravens games last year, having owned so many Ravens. Rashad Bateman last year was top five in receiving touchdowns in the NFL if you include playoffs as well. I know that's not fair for all the teams, but it goes to show that he is up there with some of those receivers like Jamar Chase and Terry McLaurin who were very good last year. I think Rashad Bateman, I think he is a very good NFL wide receiver, like Cevan said, but think that he still has plenty of upside in Baltimore. He just signed a 3 year extension with them. They are making him a real part of the offense. I don't think he's, this wide receiver 3 or 4. He's not behind DeAndre Hopkins. I think there's a real chance that maybe, okay, if this is a hot take, that's fine. But I think he could lead the Ravens in targets this year.
Whoa!
Oh, I'll take that.
I think there's a chance for that or
No
I
come
chance.
close.
I
No
actually
chance.
agree with Tyler on this one. I don't think there's any reason that okay. Obviously, if Zay Flowers gets hurt, it's a completely different ball game. But if everyone's
Yes.
healthy, it's a non-zero chance he out targets Zay. And then I don't know if it's him and Andrews are probably pretty close. Period. So
Last year in games that Rashad Bateman scored a touchdown, the Ravens were 8-1. I know the Ravens are a very good team. That's
so
kind
when
of
they score more
circumstantial.
touchdowns, they win more games.
He
I didn't say they scored more
Okay,
touchdowns. I
but
said
don't you
when,
think that when he scores a touchdown, it gives the Ravens a better chance to win?
I mean,
In
yes,
games where
but
Patrick Mahomes throws for like 5 touchdowns, the Chiefs are undefeated.
that's
Tyler,
what
Rashad Bateman has 40 less targets, like his career best, 4 years.
I said it was a
40,
hot take.
I know, 40 less targets than Zay Flowers, even his rookie year, which was the same as last year. But th there's
I
no
really,
way. There's no
I,
way.
I really like Rashad Bateman. I think he's a good NFL receiver with the potential to be a very good NFL wide
He
receiver.
he just had a spike in touchdowns. Like he had four combined his first 3 years, and then over doubled last year, and had
Wouldn't you say
five
that's
more targets.
positive regression?
Yes, so
It's not a real
there's
term.
It is a real term, actually. Regression
it.
doesn't necessarily mean poorly. It just means you're going closer to the mean, the average.
No, I know, but isn't regression like you can regress in a way that is
Positive
positive?
regression, people assume regression means negative, but
Right.
positive regression is a real term. That means you're like, if again, if you have bad luck, positive regression means you go back towards, like, you swing the other way in your luck. So you regress back towards like the
I guess
average.
I've heard it's proper to just call it regression.
The
Okay, sure.
No, I'm with you, Reed. It is a real term. I hear it all the time. But in terms of he's not gonna be
That's
he
fine.
won't.
This is way too much time on this. I'm all in. That's all you need to
But
know.
wait.
All right, let's Reed.
Wait.
You got any thoughts on the receiver room?
I have some more thoughts on what just occurred. So, Tyler, can we do some math here? You're talking about Rashad Bateman, a player with high draft capital that separates really well. Does that remind you of anybody we've talked about that might have been droppable? That you said was droppable because maybe he didn't have the production that he could have had?
AD Mitchell, Rashad Bateman was never on as low as AD Mitchell was on the depth chart.
Okay. I just thought that you cited separation scores and his draft capital, which were like the main two
And
reasons I was like, oh yeah, AD Mitchell's obviously not droppable. And then you're like, none of that matters. He was
I
bad in 1 year.
cited that he signed a big contract
You
extension as
signed
well.
a contract.
Yeah, it was a
AD Mitchell
contract
signed a
extension.
contract last year too. It was his rookie contract.
Okay, well,
They are on the same. They
this
both
is
have 3 years left on their contract.
this is like when Cevan brings up hypothetical Luther Burden situations.
No. This is very concrete because we spent like 30 minutes telling you that AD Mitchell wasn't droppable after 1 year, and then you decided like all the reasons I said he's not droppable as the reasons that Rashad Bateman's going to go off at some point.
I also have said though in the past that like I'm not gonna just put the same person that everyone else is putting.
Well, that was just a bad take, I think.
That's fine.
And
This
and it
isn't your
sucks
team
because
breakdown.
it sucks because I was all in on your Rashad Bateman takes. Like I was closer to your soapbox than I was the other side, and then you said that, and I was like, oh.
You can separate. You can have different opinions about each thing. They're not the same player.
No, I agree, and for the reasons you listed, I do think there's still potential, but those are the same ones that apply to someone you call droppable, and he's
Okay,
the droppable guy's 3 years younger. So that's
Mm,
all. Time
sure.
to move on. I have no other thoughts on the receiver room that anyone has not already mentioned.
you have no thoughts on Rock Taylor?
Um,
Come on.
Potential to be the next Will Howard on his taxi squad.
Fair
All right.
enough. All
They're
right,
brothers.
let's get into this receivers question. Over under 3.5 top 24 receivers. Obviously, I set the line with the big three, and George Pickens isn't even a lock for that. So it's really just calling a shot that those top three will be top 24, and then does anybody else make it in?
Rashad Bateman, I heard, has got a pretty good case for it. He's going to lead the Ravens in targets this year.
What was the question again? I was
We're under
Over
3.5.
Flustered?
under
You were
yeah,
flustered?
the
over under 3.5 receivers top 24.
under.
Under.
If Rashad Bateman gets top 24, can we just like cancel the rest of them for Tyler?
If Rashad Bateman gets top 12, that's what it sounds like this is headed, then yes.
I'm also an under.
Trent,
Um, I'll go under.
I think I'm under too, unfortunately.
3.5 is a pretty high line.
I think it's the same
Yeah.
line that was put on my team.
Wow.
Almost
Yeah.
positive of
Who do
it.
you,
Comparing
No, yours
goats.
was, I think yours had a higher line though, or than 24. I think it was
Okay,
higher.
that works.
But all right, and last but not least, the cream of the crop. Well, at the top, the cream of the crop, Big
Oh,
Brock
not
Bowers.
not the cream of the crop line again. That
nah.
caused some confusion.
All right, so we got Brock Bowers, who was infamously drafted after Trey McBride, which is just ultimate fumble. And then we got Dallas Goddard, Cade Stover, Dawson Knox, and Taxi Squad, Gunnar Helm. So, Trent, just give us a quick overview of the tight ends.
Yeah, and all just riding on Brock's shoulders. I mean, nothing really much more to be said. Dallas Goedert, I think he's a good tight end too for me. I mean, that offense loves to work through Goddard as long as he's healthy. Yeah, he's kind of up there in age, but I think if he's healthy, he actually is a really sturdy tight end that can get you, you know, 5, 6 catches a game, like 60 yards and maybe a touchdown, somewhere in there. Um, Stover, kind of hoping that Schultz gets injured, he can take over. I think he's actually a really good tight end.
Crazy.
Knox, drop him. Don't really need him. I'm hoping Gunnar Helm actually can take over that starting role for the Titans, but we'll see. Gunnar was pretty good in college, I know, at Texas. So
Yeah, just working from the bottom here. Gunnar Helm. I know Tyler loves Chigakonkwo. Um, so we'll see. It'll be a solid taxi stash, as I believe this is Chig's contract here. I might be lying, but yeah, we'll see there. Dawson Knox, Kate Stover. I think I'd rather have Knox, but I wouldn't want either, even though I rostered Knox last year. And then
You rostered a lot of
Goddard,
tight ends last year, to be
I
fair.
did, I did. Goddard, I think he's a perfect tight end too. He's someone you could definitely start in a pinch or on bye weeks. He's fine. And then Brock Bowers, Dynasty tight end one, uh, in a tier by himself. Rookie receptions, record holder, even as a tight end, which is crazy. Did all that with arguably the worst quarterback situation and a bad coaching staff. Offensive coordinator got fired mid-season. Uh, Value will never be higher though, so have decisions to make. Tyler, we'll go to you last. Reed, thoughts on the room?
No new thoughts. Pretty weak room after Bowers, but it doesn't really matter after Bowers. I don't know how well his season's going to go if Dallas Goedert is starting in his flex. So,
I think Goddard's a perfectly fine backup tight end.
that's what
I
I'm
agree.
saying. He's a perfectly fine backup tight end, but it's not going to go well if that's one of the guys that's actually
Yeah.
starting in his flex. I agree.
Yeah, like if you have to throw him in for 4 weeks,
Yeah,
that's fine.
perfectly fine, but not in over a running back or a wide receiver that should theoretically be in your flex.
Yeah.
So,
And Tyler, thoughts on the room?
I like it. Nothing else to add.
Okay, well, let's get into the question. Who's better? Who's a better dynasty tight end, Brock Bowers or Trey McBride? Tyler, we'll go to you last. Um, I think I've done enough talk, Brock talk, but it's a clear
But
Brock Bowers. He's got the age. He's put up a better season already. He actually does score touchdowns. And if all things are equal, in my opinion, for Dynasty, you just take the one who's younger. And even though all things aren't equal because Brock's better, you just take him anyways. Tier of his own.
I don't think that was
He's
a controversial opinion that if all things are equal, you should take the younger player. That seems like common sense.
see, that is my point. Thank you.
But okay, but no, that's not what's actually happening here.
Well, either way, in my opinion, if tier one, Brock, tier two, Trey, and then everybody else. I think they're both in tiers of their own. It's just Brock's by
Are you going to
himself.
spoil our tight end ranks episode already?
It shouldn't, if you can't guess that, then probably you shouldn't have an opinion in general.
Wow,
okay,
that's tough.
all right.
Uh, Trent, what's your opinion? I think you're going to be biased, but it's not really biased if it's the fact.
I mean, yeah, it's just I can't say any better than what you did. I mean, Brock Bowers through and through. Um, I just think too from like overall athlete standpoint. I mean, what he was able to do and the offense that he was in compared to where Trey's at. I mean, Trey has a quarterback. Brock really didn't have a quarterback and was able to produce. So, and the only way you can actually get the ball as a receiver is if you're making yourself available to a quarterback. And so that was his big thing was, I mean, his ability to kind of route up corners and all that. linebackers at times, whatever it may be. I think he's just the overall better athlete than Trey. Trey's got a bigger frame to him. I think he's more sturdy that way, but it doesn't matter if you're wide open. So
Facts. Reed, thoughts?
Obviously, I'm going to take Brock Bowers, and I don't think it's a question, but I have them in the same tier.
That's
So
fair. But since you don't think it's a question, that means he clears.
No, I'm saying that I think they're in the same tier, but I just don't know what the argument to put McBride over him is, even though I think they're close.
All right. And Tyler?
Rankings are boring if everyone agrees, right? Now, this question is obviously bait for me. That you came up with, Cevan, on Trent's episode, so shame on you. That's pretty rude to do to Trent.
No one's going to
I'm
listen
not.
to our tight end episode now.
I'm. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna take my guy here. I mean, what am I doing if I don't, right? I. I love Trey McBride. I don't need to talk about him. My only. I think it's probably more likely Brock Bowers finishes as tight end one this year than McBride. I can agree with that, but I think that maybe just a hair of caution should be taken with Bowers, and that this is a new offense, new head coach. There's new pieces there, new quarterback. It's a lot of change going on in Vegas. And so I just think that maybe, just maybe, that there should be a little more skepticism being talked about with Bowers. Not that he'll be some tight end outside of the top 12, but that he's may not reach the same heights he reached last year with the changes in Vegas and the new weapons there. So I think I think it's silly to think that there's no chance that he finishes anything other than tight end one. I think that's goofy, unrealistic, and just he is he's great. He's superstar, but let's not act like there's no one else up there with him.
All right. Well said. All right, let's get into our hot takes for the episode. Coming in from Trent. Trent's hot take is Matthew Stafford and JJ McCarthy will both finish inside the top seven quarterbacks. Now, this I would say is like way up there in the spice meter. So, Trent, talk us through it.
So yeah, going back, this is where I got high hopes for JJ McCarthy to really just kind of ball out like all year, top to bottom, and Matt Stafford for just having like one last big hoorah kind of season before he probably really uh, rides off into the sunset, I guess you could say, with the rest of his career, wherever it may take him. But I mean, I think Matt Stafford's got that ability. He's got the weapons around him. I mean, as long as Puka's healthy all year, I mean, it comes down to that for like, I mean, any quarterback. If you're, receiving core, even your running back, if they're healthy and all that, you got chances obviously to be great. As soon as those pieces start to fall, things can go sideways quick. Kind of same thing goes for JJ. Obviously, I mean, if for some reason, somebody goes down or whatever, could derail that thing. But I think, in a perfect world, everything goes well. Injury wise for them, I think they could both be up there in contention for it just based on what they've got. So,
Yeah. Tyler
but it's a
Reed,
hot one, that's sure.
it is. Tyler Reed.
For those of you who don't know, we've been keeping track of the hot takes, and what chance the three hosts here think each of them have of happening. I would say this would be either the lowest or the second lowest chance of all the hot takes that have been given of happening. I don't think there's any world where this happens.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is as close to 0% as Reed will possibly let me get, which is never zero.
It's true. It's not zero, but it's like a rounding error to zero,
Oh,
above zero.
geez.
Like if you
It's
rounded it
just
to 5 decimal points, you might get a 0.1 in there.
yeah,
Mm.
like to me, those top five that is like consensus, and then without factoring injury, if you have those five and then the field for two spots, I wouldn't put either of these two in the field. Like there's so many other people. But that's why it's a hot take. Tyler, any thoughts?
No, nothing else.
Does this fit your spice level or not fit your cup of tea?
My tongue's on fire, man.
Yeah, I think it might be too spicy for him.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I believe I'm up next. And this is that Cedric Tillman will finish as a top 24 wide receiver. I would say this is probably pretty hot because I don't have his ADP and redraft up, but I can assure you it is nowhere near the top 24. I think Reed mentioned earlier you can get him for free at the end of your draft.
Yeah, I think
So
he's like a
that's
late round draft pick at
yeah, so
best.
that's probably like 40 or 50. So doubling your ROI on Tillman is what my hot take is. I'm completely in on him. I think Deontay Johnson's toast. He's confirmed he's soft when he said he uh, told them he wasn't going to play because it was cold. Reed can argue with that.
That's
Don't
not what he
care. He
said.
said it. He said it.
You and
Um,
Deontay got a lot in common, then, Cevan.
yeah, sure. Oh, you almost caught a bullet right there. Cedric Tillman.
Cedric
Yeah,
Tillman's ADP right now in redraft is 60, wide receiver 65.
yeah. So
Notably, just ahead at wide receiver 66 of Wandale Robinson
interesting.
Hmm.
and Xavier Legette at 67.
But yeah, I'm just in on Cedric Tillman. I even with it, the only thing that's sketchy about this is that there probably will be, no, not probably, there will be at least three quarterbacks to take snaps this year. And so that's sketchy. But if he builds a good rapport out the jump, then I don't know why they would go away from whatever. I mean, it's probably not going to happen, but thoughts?
Sounds like you should have taken the over on the top 24 wide receivers then if he's going to finish as a top 24 wide receiver.
No, because George Pickens isn't.
Oh, okay. So
I
does
don't have
Tillman finish ahead of Pickens then?
No, he won't.
I don't have anything to super back this up, but Cedric Tillman reminds me of Chase Claypool in a way. Just like third round player, but if like a Linsanity run, and then I'm projecting. I don't know if Tillman will be much. Is I guess what I'm kind of saying.
We'll see. Any other thoughts on this?
No comment.
Nope.
All right. Let's get on to Reed's hot take. Oh, nice. I didn't see this. Cedric Tillman starts at least 10 games in his starting lineup. Well,
I did
that
mine
sounds
first,
good.
just so everybody knows. This is not just a Cedric Tillman take. This is a Trent's team needs another flex take. Because as I said, I don't think that Dallas Goedert is someone you feel comfortable putting in your flex on a weekly basis. Much better suited as like a tight end too, in which case he's very good at that. I think that there's a chance that both Cedric Tillman is a fantasy relevant player and Trent needs a flex. So this is my hot take there. And this is regular season only. So he starts 10 of 14 games and really only 10 of 13 because he'll have a bye week in there. So, yeah, I think I'm in on Tillman this year. Brown's gonna be tossing the sling and the rock around, and I think Tillman could be a beneficiary. And Trent needs another flex
Hey, it's
I
only July, you know. I know Goddard's there right now, but doesn't mean I can't swap him out.
That's
for
true.
Cedric Tillman.
I
There's
like
a guy
the
named Jaden Higgins that might take that for, but we'll
Jaden
see.
Higgins is a poor man, Cedric Tillman.
Okay.
mm,
Jaden
I
Higgins
like
also doesn't have concussion history.
That's true.
I like the take if you don't take into the context Trent's roster. I like the take saying that Tillman will be flex worthy. So
Well, the point is that we're doing a hot take for Trent's team, so I figured it would be good to loop in his team
yes, I know,
rather
and
than
I'm
making a
just
take
telling
like
you.
yours that I don't actually believe in.
What do you mean? I love it's a hot take. You actually believe I'm gonna miss the playoffs, right?
Yes.
Okay, exactly. I got you there. All right. Let's get into Tyler's hot take to wrap this segment up. Isaiah Pacheco, Aaron Jones, Quinshawn Judkins, Cam Skattebo are all top 30 running backs.
Well, if you think you've heard this before, you have because I did not realize that that was one of your running back questions, Cevan. Poor planning on my part there. I thought this was unique. But yeah, I said when you asked this question earlier, I answered four, and so these are the four I have. but I guess I'll expound a little bit on Trent's running back room. I think it is, like I said, I think it could be a strength, a surplus of his team. I think it is underrated. Not saying it's one of the best, but I think there are plenty of real pieces here, and I think there is a world where a lot of them do have very real and important value for him. And these are the four I'm calling my shot on. These are the four I like the most.
Awesome. Well, yeah, it does. I didn't read your hot take when I put that question in, so maybe we're just on the same page,
Yeah,
which I don't know if that's good if we're on the same page.
probably.
But yeah. All right. Wrapping it up here, we have our season predictions, our playoff odds. I have at 30%. Reed is at 25%, and Tyler is closer to me at 29%. And then championship odds, getting that bye is what the requirements for this. We got 3% from myself, 5% from Reed, and Tyler a little bit higher at 7% for the championship odds. Um,
Savon, why don't you talk about how you have the highest playoff odds and the lowest championship odds?
um, yeah, so talking about that, I think I'm just a little, I haven't looked at our rankings in a while. Think last time I looked, Tyler and I were the same. I know you have him lower, and so in terms of the playoff percentage, I have him in the tier of playoff aspirations, but there's about three or four teams that are interchangeable for me, and so basically just picking one out of three teams to get that last spot is how I'm looking at it. But I don't think there's I guess there's a 97% chance that it's not him getting a top two seed. I don't know if I answered your question. I just don't, it doesn't matter. Just leave me alone. Tyler, what about you?
I think talking about Trent's team, really, maybe I don't know who it was specifically, but kind of talked myself into thinking that these odds that I have down should be a bit higher. I, tight end's obviously the big strength, but I don't know if there's a clear weakness between the quarterback, running back, and wide receiver rooms there. So I think I could probably be a little bit more generous with my playoff odds here. Um, Maybe take a few points off you or Reed or something like that. I don't know
Oh,
if
what the hell is
I'll
that?
figure it out later. But I don't think Trent's in a terrible spot or anything like that. And if he misses the playoffs this year, then I mean, hopefully no sweat. He's got plenty of really good, or I've plenty of pieces that can be really good next year and beyond. So,
He,
um,
sorry, touching on that real quick. If Trent does miss the playoffs, I mean, Sumner has a top six pick, not his own, in the McCarthy deal.
Sounds like you should be higher on Sumner then.
No, what? I'm just saying that's a reason not like you're playing this year for yourself. I know you play every year for yourself, but
That
you
makes
can't
sense.
you can't like you can't lose. Like you can't tank intentionally, if that makes sense. I know we have anti-tanking parameters set. Don't know if I use that right,
Do we have
but
anti-taking parameters?
yeah, we have a whole thing in the Constitution about it,
I think that's
That
more about throwing week to
yeah,
week.
that's
which
news
is
to me, and I
tanking.
wrote it.
No, that's
How is throwing and
that's
tanking not the same thing?
Tanking is intentionally trading your good players to garner higher draft capital. Throwing means like playing, Damian
Rock
Pierce
Taylor.
and yeah, Rock Taylor in your lineup to intentionally lose. There's a difference between tanking and throwing.
They each work the same.
They do not.
Either way,
I have my playoff odds here, and contrary to Tyler, I talked myself up before this, and I feel comfortable with where I am. I I just don't see the reason that I had him originally below both Sandy and Schrader, a tier below, is I don't see other than Bowers what top end players he has that can be like league winner guys. Like with Sandy, you had the Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown stack, and you had Bijan. With Schrader, you have the two stud running backs. Like I think you have Bowers and then a bunch of mid, and I just don't see the best case scenario that he can actually pull out a playoff run or a top two seed. So I feel pretty good about where I am. When I went back and looked, I was higher on the depth overall, but just lower on the ceiling, but higher on the floor than I was before. So, like I said, definitely a bottom of the tier, but like I said, still a fighting chance. A fan of the league parity, and he could give some people some problems in the right situation.
Awesome. Well, to close this out, Trent, I'm going to open up the floor to you if you have anything to say, if you want to call anybody out, if you want to talk
That's
shit to
dangerous.
Reed or Tyler, leave
Or
me out of
you.
it.
Yeah, or
Leave
you.
me out of it because we talk shit to each other all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, the floor is yours.
Um, I guess I don't really have much more. Yeah, I'm obviously very optimistic, and the entire podcast I could have just tooted my own horn and all that, but got to keep it somewhat realistic. I enjoy like talking football, and to be honest, like if I were to look back like 6 years ago in my life, I didn't think I'd be this in depth into fantasy football, but it's kind of engulfed my life in a way, and my wife would say it's unhealthy at times, but it's completely healthy to me. So appreciate you guys taking the time today, having me on. Um, I will prove a lot of people wrong this year, and it'll only be building for the future years. So
Over under 6.5 wins for you this year. Gun to your head.
over.
Over.
That's the
Love it.
question. Yeah.
Love it.
Yep.
The one thing I have for you, Trent, is a famous quote, I believe, from you about a decade ago.
Oh
Um,
god.
the way I see it, you have two quarterbacks that can score you big points.
And neither of them are Jordan
Oh,
Love from his hot take, I heard.
That's true.
are you
That's
referring to the time where I took two quarterbacks in the first 4 rounds of a redraft?
Yes.
In
yes.
a start one QB
Can,
league. Yes.
can you name them, Trent?
Kirk and Tom.
Yes, let's
Yes,
Yes.
go.
sir.
He's up with the lore.
Round two and round four, which I think Tom probably would have been acceptable in round four, but Kirk, there's just no reason.
Hey, I
Totally.
heard with Kevin O'Connell, he was never not a top 12 quarterback, according to some.
That is true. But being drafted as the third quarterback,
I would have been surprised if there weren't other quarterbacks going there because
that's
that
true.
was the early days.
That's true.
Okay, if there's nothing else, let's wrap up here. Anyone have anything else? Or are we good to go?
I'm good.
Good.
Awesome. We don't know who our guest is next week, but we will see you next week regardless.